Tonight's tutorial we're going to talk about using hypnosis for pain relief and pain management. Now, any person can be sitting, walking, running, riding a bike, they can be playing sport, they can be doing any number of activities, common daily activities, and in the process of everyday experiences they might experience many sensations that they don't notice, they're not aware of. Let me elaborate. So we have an awareness of sensations. So I went for a walk recently. I went for a walk where I live. There's a nice lake. I went for a walk around the lake. And having gone for a walk around the lake, I wasn't aware of any sensations on my feet until I sat down. Then I became aware of my feet. They'd been walking over stones, over a period of time. I'd been walking for 30-40 minutes. And no doubt you've had that experience yourself when you've gone for a walk, unless obviously you've got blisters in your feet, or unless obviously you have a pebble in your shoe. You hardly notice it. So you don't notice sensations, just like you might be wearing glasses now. You're wearing glasses, you're not aware of them until I mention them. I put it in your conscious awareness. Or you could be wearing a watch. Okay, you wear a watch, you're not aware of it until I mention them, and you become aware of it. Now, sensations that we could notice, we don't notice. Sensations that could be noticed, we have the capacity to notice, we don't notice. So that could be the starting place. That could be the starting place for hypnotic anesthesia. Anesthesia meaning not feeling. Anesthesia, not feeling. Now then, hypnotic anesthesia in certain situations. We've all heard, and I know that you've heard of situations where people have had an operation without anaesthetic. So the idea sounds dramatic, terrifying, very unlikely to have an operation. Yet in spite of significant collection of evidence recorded, operations of this nature, the idea still seems daunting, no doubt. So on the basis that people do and have had operations under hypnosis, it's been documented, albeit it sounds daunting and dramatic, and we know people as well who had hypnobirthing, and we know people who, under extreme circumstances, don't have an anesthetic. Not that I'm advocating not to have that, I'm using it as an example. Now, the idea that we have so many sensations and feelings, we learn not to notice them, not to be aware of them. This can form the beginning to which, with your client, you can learn to expand that capacity to not notice one sensation, you can learn not to notice another. So just like you learn not to notice your hands on the steering wheel, you might not be aware of them. I don't advocate to drive out your hands on the steering wheel, so you're not aware of them. You're not aware of your glasses, your wristwatch, and so on and so forth. They're examples of not noticing sensations. Now we can look at potentially more intrusive sensations, more intrusive than wearing a watch or sunglasses. So we hear stories of people in the sporting field. And certainly in my experience, when I used to work at the very highest level in sport as a performance coach, we had a player, if memory serves me correct, who'd fractured a tibia. If memory serves me correct now, I stand corrected. Yet he carried on playing through the game for roughly about 40 minutes without being aware of it. Then after the game, now could you imagine being in a situation where you have an injury, an impact injury of such, and you're so absorbed in the situation, in his situation, so absorbed in the game, so focused on the game, he wasn't even aware of the pain until he sat down and his leg was almost like a balloon, swollen, and kept getting more and more swollen until the swelling went down the following day or day after, x-rays, and the diagnosis was given. Now, certainly in my career as an athlete, there have been certain situations where I've been so absorbed in the event that the odd niggle here and there I wasn't aware of. But we don't just extend that to sport, also everyday situations. So you might play recreational sport yourself, you might play sport with your friends, with your family, with your children, and you're so absorbed in it. You might go for a country walk, those lovely country walks that you might go for. You might walk on the beach and you might step on a pebble or a shell or so on and so forth. It's not until you sit down and you're aware of the actual pain itself. An example is when you do the gardening and you prune the roses. It's a nice spring day and you're out there and you're pruning the roses, and then you go inside and you think, where have all these scratches come from? Where were they? Where were these scratches? Where did they come from? You're so absorbed in the gardening. So we've got the capacity for us not to notice certain sensations when we are focused and absorbed in a specific situation, and that can be the basis. That can be the notion of hypnotic anesthesia. If the person had severe pain, very intrusive pain, and didn't want to a degree, we can introduce the idea that sensations can exist without paying attention to them. I'm sure you've all had situations watching this evening where you've had a sore tooth. Has there been a situation you've had a sore tooth and you've been so absorbed in reading a book, or you've been driving, or you've been having a conversation, you've been reading a paper, you've been on the internet, you're not aware of it because you're not focusing on that. As a general rule, on a conscious level, we can focus on +7, -2, 5 to 9 pieces of information consciously. Now we know that's not true entirely, it's an assumption, but it's as good as. Now, without going into that in too much detail, that's a seminar for another day, it gives you an idea that we can sort of distract the mind to a certain degree and focus in a specific area and distract our mind from the actual pain itself. That's one concept that we can use. So as your client goes into hypnosis, during an induction, with my pain relief clients, during an induction, what I do is I make them aware. And as you're aware of your feet on the floor, until I mentioned, they probably weren't aware of it. And watching this seminar this evening, are you aware of the back, the chair, your back against the chair? And probably not until I mention it. So you can make your clients aware that the idea they don't need to notice is there. It's possible and it's plausible. Okay? So I mentioned before about the sport, the football situation. Certainly in my experience of working at the highest level in football over many years, there have been many situations where players have hamstring and injuries, and not that we advocate players carry on playing, obviously, yet through their own free will. And certainly if you watch the football at the moment that's been on TV, you'll see certain players come off with injury and go back on, and the prognosis is different to what it originally is. Call it adrenaline, or call it absorption, or call it whatever we want to call it is entirely up to you, but it shows that we have the capacity to be able to do that. A little bit like example, say every day, let's sort of go off piste a little bit, okay? So imagine a plane, if you will, flying overhead. You've probably got 100 planes that fly overhead every day. So let's take someone who is afraid of flying, for example. 100 planes fly over their head every day. Are they ducking for cover? Are they ducking for cover when every plane goes over their head? Probably not, because they're not aware of it, they're not paying attention to it. But if they book a holiday and contemplate going on that plane and focus on that, then it could elicit a response. They build an association to that. Even though there's many planes that go overhead every day, they're not aware of it in one way, shape or form. So we may not notice or be aware of it, because we know at a conscious level we can only focus on so much. So what we can do is quite useful when we develop a script for the client, is we can use story, we can use metaphor. If the person likes sport, for example, you might use an example of an athlete or one of their favourite sports people who was injured, who sort of carried on. And we've all seen those famous Olympic stories where athletes have been injured and got over the finishing line and so on and so forth. So that can be a powerful story you can use, or you don't have to use sport as a story. You can go with what the patient, the client likes, and use examples and stories. Or maybe you could sort of mention to them they may have had a sore tooth in the past or pain in the past, and they didn't notice or didn't focus their attention on that, and that could be the building block. To build momentum, we want to build momentum, we want to build an expectancy. We want to build expectancy with what is happening now for everyday extensions of everyday experience. So we want to use powerful examples and link those experiences. To possibilities, to specific clients. We want to link that everyday experience or link the experience that they are having at that specific time to a different experience, to various options, alternatives and possibilities and experiences. So let's say, for example, let's use an example to clarify. If someone comes in to see you with back pain, they've got chronic back pain. Now, I'm not recommending this by no means. Each case is based on formulation. But let's say if the client comes in with chronic back pain, and I really think, obviously in these situations, through safeguarding me as a therapist, the first thing I would do is exhaust any medical avenue it might be. When I was delivering a training for a group of chiropractors, I was teaching them NLP and hypnotherapy, and they talked about psychosomatic conditions and pain and so on and so forth. I made the recommendation. I was delivering it was at the University of Bournemouth, and the chiropractors out there. I said to the guys, well, what you want to do is to make sure that the person who's clinically supervising the patient has the all clear, in the sense that, let's say they come in for back pain, you want to get some sort of medical referral or exhaust any avenue of what it might be, because not every back pain is linked to emotional trauma. God forbid it could be a tumour. And after 6 months they carry on doing the chiropractic and they don't seek the medical help they need in that situation. And so what I'm suggesting is, another story for another day, and we talk about safeguarding. It's very important as a therapist to make sure that we work in conjunction with medical people too. I'm not medically qualified, but I work in the field of therapy. One thing I would do for sure if someone came in with any discomfort is to make sure medically, or make sure I have made some contact with the medical people to clarify. Now obviously there's no guarantees in life, nothing's foolproof, but at least you've exhausted every avenue. So they've done, so someone might come in for a headache, for example, and you might, they may not have seen their GP, and they might have a concept of hypnosis. Before taking it on, it might be a suggestion saying, if you go back to your GP and get a specialist consultant and get an MRI scan and maybe seek a neurologist opinion. That way we can treat the person with some level of confidence that, okay, some things aren't explained, or if you have got an explanation and the medical person thinks it's a good idea for them to do hypnosis to alleviate their pain. I have some clients who've got variable conditions and they come in, it's more controlled, isn't it? So let's sort of bear that in mind. Each case is based on its formulation, and certainly the seminar this evening is purely educational. I'm not recommending any of this or you to do any of this. It's just purely educational level. So under the right circumstances, the person with the back pain has the capacity to not notice the sensations as previously intrusive. So one of the things I do as well is use a scale of pain, perhaps to a lesser degree. Perhaps we can use a scale of 1 to 100, with 100 being high, and we could scale and see where they are. We can give them a diary. I certainly give my clients a diary to work with and see if there's anything in what they eat or any activities they do or so on and so forth, to get a bigger picture, so to speak. Also get them to quantify, because how do you quantify anything to do with psychology or the mind? It's not like running a race where you run 100 meters in 10 seconds and you can run that, or your aim is to get 9.9. So one way we could use our intuition and our own experience and say, okay, at this moment in time, your back pain at peak intensity is 80% with 100 being high, and maybe the goal might be to decrease it to 50. Or maybe it might be there are certain times there is no pain, and you can use that as a focal point. Because too often what we do is, like all things, we labels, and I'm certainly not making any suggestions here, yet the word chronic insinuates that's there all the time. There might be times it's not there. So one of the things we can do and is focus on what's different when it's not there, what's going through the mind then, and create some absorption around that. That's a possibility, an option, something to explore on a different day. But we can use the scale. And you can certainly use the scale with your clients if you choose to. It's entirely up to you on a 1 to 100, and that gives you an idea, a ballpark figure to work the sessions. And you can use and create different scripts and different sessions and see how they work. And the goal is to minimise it. So the key is really to get some sort of way of quantifying it. So the apparently dramatic hypnotic anesthesia experience becomes less dramatic if we look at it that way. If we look at the concept that way, it's doable. I'm sure you agree with that. It's doable if we look at it that way from the point of view we link it with what the person's experiencing in that moment, it becomes more doable. So that very aspect of using hypnosis for pain relief or pain management becomes a great way to alleviate, control and manage pain. How far and how much it will work is anybody's guess really, yet in saying that it's your call. It's one would think it's got to be worth a go, all things being well. So there are some sensations that aren't very intrusive at all. For example, have you ever had some dust in your eye? You know, when you got the dust in your eye and it becomes really troublesome, or an eyelash, and you're kind of flapping around and so on and so forth. It can drive you crazy, can't it? Now, a pebble in your shoe as you're walking along, it can drive you crazy, one would think. So there are other elements or another element sensations that have a degree of suffering on a scale of things. And obviously we've got different pain thresholds, different things that affect different people in different ways as well. But we can also introduce the idea that we become less troubled by sensations, a way of lessening the awareness in your script to the sensation. We can help a person alleviate such suffering by becoming less troubled, have the capacity to be less troubled by that experience. So someone going to hypnosis, invite them to be aware or where they've got sensations in their feet, sitting down, or the back against their chair is there. So you can introduce the idea they don't need to be as bothered or focused, or certainly they can become functional or more functional if they choose to do so in certain situations with certain sensations. So an example might be, you might have a dog and the dog is barking of an evening, and the dog's barking away of an evening and barking away, and that obviously can be, for the most part, for certain people in certain situations, quite irritating if you're trying to get a report done or you're trying to get to sleep and so on and so forth. But there might be situations where you don't hear the dog bark at all, and that could be troublesome in its own way, because we think the absence of barking could be a source of suffering, because we start hypothesizing in terms of what could or might happen to the dog. Certainly in certain situations you have a baby, the mum and dad have a baby, and the absence of crying is a source of suffering. So the sound, which could be potentially irritating in certain situations, if you're doing a report or you're having a conversation, you're eating a meal, you come home from work one day, in certain circumstances can be a comfort. Would you agree? So certainly in sport, in my experience, it could be a pair of football boots. So we buy a pair of football boots that we want a bit tighter than what they normally are. So our foot stretches into that. So we experience that. So not to suffer. So many sensations in everyday life we're not really bothered by. So we can also introduce that concept too. So one of the points I'm going to make here is we can begin with something the patient does not want, as well as helping them decrease awareness to their sensations. Now, we can assist the person become less troubled by the sensations, analgesia, reducing the suffering, reducing the actual suffering of the pain. We can also introduce the concept of not being as aware as we normally would do, and assist them with a degree of comfort too. So, but also bearing in mind, with all this in mind, in certain situations, not every situation, there are variable permutations and every condition is different, and each patient is treated based on case formulation. When designing a script and you want to create a level of absorption, now you probably heard some of my scripts on iTunes, and I did a pain relief one that I'm more than happy to email you on iTunes, and that was quite generic. But in the process of doing a generic script, it's going to work for some people, it might not work for others, but we're doing a script that's going out there. And what I mean by that is, for some people, going to the beach could be a relaxing, wonderful experience. For some people, it could be sunburn, or it could be a different experience, just like walking in the countryside. For some people it could be a beautiful experience, for some people it might be tiring or not for them. So we want to create a script around the person and find out what they like. So they might have had a massage and that was a really relaxing experience. So you can sort of take them back to that experience, and you're more than welcome to email me and I'll give you some ideas in terms of how I create scripts specifically. Obviously generically, if you're doing a generic script, it's a little bit different because it's hard to do one size fits all. It's to a degree it is hit and miss, but it might resonate for some, not for others. But the key when we're working with an individual is focus on their sense of reality, and then we can create some absorption around that, and we can use examples of how they're not aware of certain things, like we mentioned earlier. So it could be their feet against the floor when you do an induction, their back against a chair. You can also use examples like we mentioned before, some pain in certain circumstances can be a comfort too, so you can talk about that. You can use a scale as well, and like I said, you can email me for any questions you've got on this evening's seminar to elaborate on that. What we'll do before we close, I'll do a very brief light induction with you, and beyond that, you're more than welcome to email me for any questions, comments, otherwise you've got, and this is a broad area, and we've covered some of the key components of this, which no doubt will help you in structuring your own sessions and use this for what you will. So perhaps at this point you'd like to close your eyes. So perhaps you'd like to close your eyes, or you can focus on the spot on the wall. It's entirely up to you. It's your call. You can either close your eyes, and the benefits of closing your eyes, you block out the outside world, and you can focus and relax, or you can just focus on the spot on the wall. It's entirely up to you. And as you close your eyes, you become aware of your breathing, and as you become aware of your breathing, you become aware of your heart beating, and as you become aware of your heart beating, you can feel your feet against the floor, your back against the chair. You might sigh, just release any stress or tension, and relax. And let your mind wander. And as I count back from 3 to 1, 3, breathing in, the way of your breathing, as your way of breathing it slows down, become more relaxed 2. And now go back to a time. As I count to 1, you can empty all your thoughts into a bag and pick them up in a minute or 2 if you wish. And as you let go of all your thoughts and pick them up in a couple if you wish, just let your mind wander. This is your time, really relax. And as you really relax, let your mind go and breathe. And go back to a time in your life where you felt really relaxed, calm, and at peace with the world. And breathe, and notice what you see, the colours, any feelings, any sounds. And if you can't think of a time, use your imagination to create a place of tranquility. What you see, what you hear, what you feel, the colours, the sounds, the feelings. And let those feelings spread through every cell and muscle in your body. And as you let those feelings spread through every muscle and cell in your body, imagine emptying all the stress out from the soles of your feet and breathing in relaxing energy and breathing out stress. And as you begin to relax more and more, you might sigh and release and feel peaceful and calm, knowing the moment is all you have. Can't control what happened yesterday, or we can't control what's happening tomorrow. Just live the moment in the now, at peace and tranquility, feeling relaxed, at peace with the world, and you're aware of any sounds and any sensations, and notice what the sensations are, any feelings, and become deeper and deeper relaxed. And in that state of relaxation, go back to a time in your life where you felt really relaxed and at peace with the world. It could be having a massage. And as you imagine having a massage and letting go of any stress and tension in the body, you feel loose and relaxed. Or it might be on a vacation, or it could be on a holiday, or going for a walk, and you're completely absorbed in that situation, and you're relaxed and fully associate that experience like it's the here and now. And I'm going to pause for a moment, and as I pause, just imagine being in that state of bliss and tranquility in the here and now. Any negative thoughts that go into your mind, let them evaporate. Let them evaporate. Or any emotions that you're uncomfortable with, this too shall pass. Let them flow. And imagine a river flowing in front of you. And just see the emotions flow away, and flow away, and flow away. And focus on the state of relaxation. Let those negative thoughts and feelings just disintegrate to the atmosphere. Any pain, let it disintegrate into the atmosphere. Any pain you might have, just notice where it is, what colour it is, and what feeling, or has it got a sound. And imagine draining the pain of all any colour and turning the sound down and releasing the pain like flowing down a river. Let it go. And as you release the pain and let the pain go and let it flow, replace it with these beautiful, wonderful feelings of relaxation you might have had when you had a massage, in a vacation. Sigh and let the pain go. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Minimize it. You're in control. You're in control. At any moment you can come back to the here and now. For now, just release and let go and relax. And wherever that pain is, just drain the colours, sounds. Let it go and minimize it. And release and replace it with wonderful feeling. And let those feelings of bliss spread for every cell and muscle in the body. And let the pain evaporate through the soles of your feet. And down a river, let them flow. And with any negative thoughts and feelings, go. And breathe in bliss and let those feelings of bliss and tranquility spread for every cell of the body. And breathing slows down, you feel relaxed and calm and at peace with the world. And in a moment, I'm going to count back from 3 to 1. If you want, you can anchor those feelings. It's entirely up to you. As I count back from 3 to 1, you come back refreshed, revitalized. 3, coming back in your own time. 2, coming back. And 1. And just come back in your own time, in your own pace. Well done. Now you might want to have a go at that again, elaborate on that. But feel free to email me, Jim Petruzzi, that's Jim Petruzzi, JIMMYPETRUZZI @nlp-trainingcourses.com, or info@excelwithnlp.com, info@excelwithnlp.com. And I would suggest to watch the video a few times over, make a few notes and play around with it and see how you go from there. And certainly I'm not recommending anything other than for educational purposes. Take out of what you will, but you're welcome to email me any thoughts, comments or feedback, and we'll make the video available anyway, as we always do. Have a fantastic evening and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you.